Welcome to CEO Chat. It's Friday. It's 10:30. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Asamendi.
And our guest, nice to see you, Joe.
Nice to see you, Al.
And our guest today is Tom Scurria,
Correct.
who is a consultant. And let's open the conversation with something I see on your website and something I see on your LinkedIn profile, Tom, called ownership DNA. Maybe you can tell us what that means.
Yeah, ownership DNA is really getting everyone in the organization owning it, owning the mission, owning the vision, and understanding how to get that concept of ownership into the organization, into the people. And I don't necessarily mean legal ownership. I mean there's ways to, from a compensation, from a spirit perspective, but owning it and rowing it. And I've, over my career, I've had a lot of opportunity to feel the ownership concept, and we can talk about that later on. But really how I've developed it over time is, and there's two things I want to start with. I'm a history nut, and I love fly fishing.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, okay.
And
Interesting.
History is a very, it's great lessons if you go back in history, particularly military history, but all kind of history. The word strategy is really a Greek word that comes from, it's a very old concept, but a very future-looking concept. And I may pronounce this wrong. It comes from the word strategoi, which was basically the name of the military commanders in Greece.
Okay.
So if you go throughout history, and keep in mind as I go through this what strategy means, but strategy really means, setting a direction, creating a plan, executing the plan, refining it so you're doing it at an optimal level, resources, people, effectively, cost effectively. Building a network, a business network, partnerships, people can help you do it. Very key. It's part of esprit de corps, building the organization so they get value and personal value out of it. And lastly, which to me is always one of the more important things, it's building leadership, the next round of leadership.
Really?
So that's kind of the history, Pete. And if you go back in history and look at the great generals, military, Pericles, Themistocles, you've got Philip I, Alexander the Great, you've got Caesar, Pompey, you've got Charlemagne, you've got Genghis Khan of all people, strangely as it may sound.
One of my favorite people from history. I love Genghis.
You got Washington, you have Napoleon, jumping defeated him, Duke of Wellington.
Okay.
You've got Grant, Robert E. Lee was incredible, Stonewall Jackson, absolutely incredible.
Okay.
And one of my favorites of all time is George Patton.
Oh, okay.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah,
disciple.
that's-
They all had this understood strategy, and they understood how to motivate.
Okay.
I'm a visual guy now, so this is important as we
No,
go
that's
through the
fine.
rest of this thing.
Please do.
I love fly fishing.
Okay.
And fly fishing, for those who don't know what fly fishing is, because some people don't, it's basically attaching an imitation of a fly, a life cycle of a fly on the end of a line to catch fish. That's what they eat. The thing when you're driving down the road in the spring and you get these dead bugs all over your screen.
Right.
Those are the flies they eat, believe it or not.
Okay.
So what you need in fly fishing is you need a rod, and they have various rod weights depending on the size of the fish. They can go from 0 to 12, 13. You need a reel that matches that rod. You need a fly line, which I usually fish with a 5-weight, so my reel's a 5-weight, my line's a 5-weight.
Okay.
Attached to the end of that is 6 to 9 feet of a tippet, which is effectively a 5Xer ties to that.
Okay.
And you have the fly. So now you got the equipment.
Okay.
And you see this great thing where they go, beautiful casting on a river runs through it, they cast and they throw it in there, and it kind of flops down nicely. The last piece, well, I take this back. Before that, you're actually looking at the stream,
Okay.
because there are certain places in the stream where fish are more likely to hold, behind boulders or in deep pools. So you're reading the market,
Okay.
so to speak. So you cast this thing out there. Presentation is everything. It drops on the line. You got the drag, how it goes to the stream has got to be perfect. If you do it right, what I just went through, you coordinated all this, you will catch more fish than you can ever imagine. Screw it up a little bit, and
you're going to have a bad
you're going to
day.
have a problem. So I want you to keep that whole alignment concept.
All right. No, that's cool.
Now going back to strategy and ownership DNA. And again, over my career, I've had the experience to experience actual legal ownership of things and being exposed and at risk for a lot of things. But my concept is very simple. To go in and how we help companies is go in and say, let's start with your strategy. I want to go to the trusted advisor level or CEO level.
Okay.
What would you do if you could increase sales 40, 50%? Would you add new product lines? Would you build a new plant? Would you bolster the organization? Would you send your kids to college, or would you,
Right.
go on great vacations? It's this whole wants needs kind of thing, which is really important to these people. So why can't you? Why can't you do it? And what happens in a lot of companies is there's a problem with the vision. The people don't get the vision. You got a clash of cultures within the organization. By that I mean the silos. You get to a certain size and you start to have marketing, operations, finance, HR, who are probably more motivated up their silos
In their silos.
than
right.
they are versus the mission or the vision of the company. So it's part of strategy is figuring that out initially. So why aren't those things happening? And they could be happening for a lot of reasons. As I say, we're not nobody sees the vision correctly. We've got a
Right.
clash of silos.
Right.
Cost structure is wrong. Or marketing. We're not fishing in the right part of the stream.
Okay.
We're not casting into the market where most of the fish are, and you have the high hit rate.
Okay.
So really, the whole concept of ownership DNA is and what we do is take a look at, start at the top, the strategy, and really I'm dealing at a founder CEO level. And you're at this tipping point. You've got problems.
Okay.
Well, you may not have problems, but you want to maybe you're trying to decide whether to make that next stair-step investment. Typical evolution of the company, you never build the overhead first.
Right.
So you get to a standard level where everybody's stretched
Right.
and things are growing, but now I got to make that $10 million investment.
Right. Okay.
Or I've got those other issues we've talked about. So it's really dealing with those kinds of issues and we're looking at strategy and helping them get through that. Now, the only way I've ever seen it, and the way those generals have seen it, and the way you do fly fishing is you got to align everything. And basically it comes down to what's in it for me. Human nature for 5,000 years is at the end of the day, we can talk about all the nice stuff. It's what am I going to get out of it?
Okay.
And does the cash flow?
Okay. We got to take a break. When we come back after this break, we'll have more with Tom Scurria, and we'll talk about how you achieve that alignment for your clients. So we'll be right back on CEO Chat.
Stick around. Welcome back.
Welcome back to CEO Chat. This guy's Joe Assaman.
And that's Alcine.
And that guy over there is Tom Scurria.
Hi, Tom.
And he's a fly fisherman, and he's a seasoned business expert. And before the break, you were just finishing up an idea about getting everything in alignment. Maybe you could finish up.
Yeah, again, going back to how I kind of opened the project or the show is this whole fly fishing was the visual to me.
Right.
To me, that's an organization.
Right.
And getting everything rolling the same way. And the way you do that is, again, by the strategy planning concept. The first thing, literally I would do, or our company would come in, is let's first take a look at the strategic plan or strategy. Do you have a plan, first of all? And if it is a plan, is it reasonable? Does it do all those things, basic strategic plan? Look at the product, look at the market, look at the mission, and then the vision. Look at the resources, do a SWOT analysis, understand what the customer, heavy amount of this is on looking at customer side, what's valuable to the customer.
Now, who's typically going to call you in, Tom? Would it be a CFO or a CEO?
It would be, I would call it the economic buyer, which would tend to be a CEO of a small company or the founder.
Okay.
Could be a CFO, but I'm saying would tend to be the economic buyer.
Start right at the top.
Who's at that tipping point. I think we mentioned earlier some of the issues. They've got challenges. The message's not getting out there. There's a clash of culture. They got cash flow issues. And with the wild economy of the last 8, 9, 10 years,
A lot of companies fall in that
have that.
category.
Or you're trying to say, do I make this cash flow investment? Do I make this next stair-step investment?
Okay.
So, it's understanding that piece. So if you got a good plan, a good strategic plan.
Let me ask you a question. How do you address a CEO or a founder or whatever who has a strategic plan that isn't correct or it doesn't make sense?
Honesty.
Oh, so okay.
Okay.
One of the things people often ask me, who's your ideal client?
Right.
I want somebody at the tipping point who's got these issues, who's got fire in their belly,
Okay.
who appreciates being challenged and has honesty, and he's an economic buyer. So
Okay.
it's in a situation like that, and I've had people come up to me and lay out a vision and plan. They want to do something, and I'm saying, it's not going to work.
Okay.
There isn't enough. In that market, there isn't enough people, or whatever you're trying to sell or service. I look at things for years. I looked at acquisitions 3 ways. Is it unique? Is it sustainable or valuable?
Okay.
And it's really almost a Morningstar kind of concept. I don't know if you understand what a Morningstar is. It's a stock analysis,
Sure.
the moat
Right.
concept. And if you're not strong in all 3 of those, you probably should not pursue it. I mean, you might have a great vision, but
Right.
Right.
you know, is the product or service unique enough? In that also you can kind of protect it from competition. Is it valuable? It adds value to the customer. From a customer, they're going to want it.
So if I'm having a problem with sales traction or sales growth, I could call you and you would help me with that?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to tie it back to the kind of specific issues that people might be having. So if they're watching the program and they're not happy with their sales performance, they should call you and you can help them with a sales strategy. They might have a production problem.
But I want to be clear on the
Okay.
sales strategy. I want to deal with step back. When somebody typically says, "I've got a want," they really have a need.
Right.
And the need may be at a more strategic level.
Okay.
It may be a product level, maybe a vision level. So it's not the sales necessarily strategy. Let's deal at the strategic level
Right.
Okay.
rather than the tactical and implementing the sales tactic point. Because
Okay.
typically people will express what they want.
Okay.
We all do it.
I want
Right.
more sales, but
Yeah, but
the
they don't really know
fundamental
what that
problems may be deeper than
needs.
that.
Right.
Maybe my
Okay.
product isn't that good. Maybe it's got flaws.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe my service delivery is poor.
Okay.
It's all those kinds of things. Those things tend to be systemic. I mean, when I say systemic, they're the system of what's
Okay.
going on. Typically, it's what's the real need.
Okay, now we have a little bit of time left in this segment, but we can continue into the next segment. Where does this come from in your experience? I mean, what gives you the background to solve these problems for people?
Okay, I've had a very blessed career. I'll probably show how long my tooth is when I start telling this. But I came out as a very naive, dumb person out of college and in public accounting and didn't know the world.
Like all of us.
Yeah, like all of us. Went in, spent 4 years in an old firm called Haskins and Sells, which became ultimately Deloitte Touche many moons ago. Moved into Aramark, which was an absolutely blessed experience for me from a career standpoint, and moved there in 1981. Very entrepreneurial company, it was a wild economy. Interest rates were high. They were growing like crazy. I moved into their treasury group out of accounting just before the leverage buyout in 1984. I was managing their pension assets. They had about a $450 million master trust.
Right.
Sometime in mid-1984, there was an unfriendly takeover attempt from one of the prior presidents. They fought it off. And Joe Neubauer and the team pulled off an unbelievable, in like 99 days, a leverage buyout for $1 billion.
Okay.
And this is the go-go days. If you remember back then, you had Drexel Burnham, you had junk bonds, the market was phenomenal.
Sure.
So it was a real exciting time. My job after that was continuing to pass out pension assets, handling the pension assets, but also got involved with hedging the bank debt with interest rate swaps and futures. Shortly after I wasn't involved with the first round of the buyout from an ownership perspective, but shortly after that, and this is where Joe Neubauer was brilliant. This is why Aramark was has been so successful. He made everybody the next level down to buy in. So here I am, a 30-year-old guy, own a house, probably worth 80 grand. I got a wife and kids, and they said, "Well, you got to borrow $40,000 to mortgage your house again. It's already mortgaged. You're going to buy stock." Well, let me tell you, when somebody tells you that, and you don't have the experience background,
Right.
every decision you make from that point forward is all focused about value.
Is all about value.
It's trying to eliminate all the stuff that doesn't add value.
Right.
Okay.
Am I going to add value? Am I going to add cash value? Whatever you
Right.
want to call it to the corporation. So that
Right.
was a real eye-opening. It was a great career. I mean, a great situation. I then moved into their corporate planning group, so I got into this whole planning, strategic business planning mode. We helped the operations. They were getting more sophisticated with that.
Okay.
Had a lot of opportunity to look at capital projects and projects across things. So that was a great experience. I did a lot of M&A work.
Okay.
and then actually moved down to the operations, which I really wanted.
Right.
Right.
I was VP in planning for the sports and entertainment division at the time in '91. I think it was about a $300 million company. We grew it to about $1 billion. I won't take credit for that, but we did a lot of acquisitions
We
and
had to keep
organic
up
growth.
with that. So, right.
But now all those business plans that were somebody else's that I was reviewing, that were now mine,
Right.
real ownership,
Yeah, it
trust
makes
me.
a real
there you
difference.
go.
Because
That's
now
ownership.
I have to go to the chairman of the board or senior management and present.
Uh-huh.
Great experience. Talk about ownership, and
No, that's really.
my behind's on the line.
Okay, now we're coming up on another break. We'll be back in a minute or so with more Tom Scurria here on CEO Chat.
Yeah.
Welcome back to CEO Chat. My name is Alcini.
I'm still Joe Osamendi.
Just like always.
Just like always.
He's always still Joe Esseman.
Yes, I am.
And you are still Tom Scurria.
I think
Just
you're-
before the break, Tom, you were filling us in on your experience, which is operations, marketing, business strategy, over a long. I mean, you look younger than all the decades
There's
of
a long
experience
tooth.
you just
There are a lot of
outlined
long
for
teeth
us.
here.
Why don't you finish up with what you believe? Yeah, with what everybody needs to know about what your background is, and then we'll move
Forward.
The last part of in our mark is part of that strategic process. Is we also learned that there was a problem in how one of the businesses were operating in. They were really operating retail gift shop operations, kind of in a food service mentality. You never have sales in food service, bro. Retail turnover of inventories. You always have broken size, color buys. So you use sales. So I created a strategic plan, a business plan where we looked at bringing in a whole bunch of resources, capturing a lot of data,
right.
new point of sale equipments, and doing what I really enjoyed more, which was the resource and people issues, even though my background is heavily financial.
Okay.
My planning. It was a great time.
Well, and actually, that's a really good point because a lot of what you're talking about really has to do almost more with HR than with just numbers.
Yeah, and it's always fascinating. I mean, I really like the people and as I said, the resources.
That's important. That has to be part of the strategy. So.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So then I left our mark in 2003 after they went public. Started up we looked at a whole bunch of business, but became a franchisee of a major fast food chain in the last 10, 11 years, up to 2 years ago. And we have 11 locations. We started up, gate out of the wall, unbelievably start up in 2006, 2007. Economy goes south. Lots of people start to fail. And so we spent a lot of time leaning on all those experience levels we've had. And we survived, but it wasn't easy.
Right.
Refinanced everything, renegotiated everything, and I've made payroll out of my own pockets. Talk about ownership. I get ownership now, and I will tell you now, I'm a way better businessman today after the last 10, 11 years. Because if we really, at our mark, we had all that support. We had nothing here. So we went from the bottom up.
Sure.
So I get ownership, and I get the mindset of CEOs and owner and founders whose necks are on the line.
That's key. And that's it. So if somebody out there wants to engage you, then the first conversation, I'm assuming, is no charge, no risk.
Absolutely.
Just
Correct.
to get to know Tom Scurria. And a little later on, at the very end of the program, you can tell everybody how to reach you and how to email you and phone you. But that conversation really does center around, I don't want to say center around anything in particular. You're going to ask the hard questions that probe for the real root cause of the problem that that company might be having. So in a lot of ways, you help people who've been in the executive suite for a long time. They have blind spots and biases and things that they've
nature.
overlooked because
Human
it's
nature.
just sort of the nature of it. And so you help them x-ray all that. Is that
Get
right?
an honest look at what's really going on.
Sure, I have a utmost respect for founders and CEOs because they're super talented. But no human has necessarily gets exposed to all that. To your point, may have biases, and we all get blind spots, or we
Right.
haven't been. I've been blessed to be exposed heavily in the planning side, heavily in the financial side, in operations. I'm not a marketing expert, but I can sharp enough to understand that. So I think my ability is to see a whole picture really fast, analyze it, figure out what's wrong not wrong, what's needed,
Figure out what's needed.
and help guide the individual, the organization through that. It's just
Okay.
I've been blessed because that's how my career developed.
That's terrific. I mean, that's really in line with everything you've done when you work for the large corporations that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's the vision. As I mentioned, Joe Neubauer, he had the brilliance to push ownership down. Now, going back to the ownership culture idea, And the strategy is your business capturing all the lowest actionable data. Okay. When I mean that, by the step or the process. And then you've got to sit back and say, every one of those steps or processes adding value, or are they neutral, are they losing value? You want to kind of get away with the ones that are losing value. You may have the ones that aren't adding value, but maybe break even might be the cost of doing business. I got to have a plan that's up.
Right.
Okay.
And emphasize the ones that are adding value. And obviously, it's almost like a Six Sigma concept.
Sure. Okay.
And you put it on a chart, time and value. Where do I go after first?
Right.
So, but you drive those good things, those positive things, into the compensation structure. So ownership can mean I'm motivated to do the correct things. If, for instance, a retail manager, I'm motivated to drive sales and have an inventory turnover so I can do sales and flip product
Exactly.
and drive more volume.
Right. That makes sense.
Or, example, because I know of food service a lot. My mystery shops are high. I've got ideal product cost. The customer's happy. I'm not getting on the phone call lines. I'm not getting the 800 number, a whole bunch of complaints.
Right.
Build that into the compensation structure. At our locations, and because we're at risk for it, I might have $1.5 million capital cost involved in this thing. I don't want to hire a $30,000 a year manager. I want somebody joining at the hip with me.
Right.
So they get a base salary of 50, and using these other incentive things built into their compensation, they can double it.
Oh, good.
I want that guy joined at my hip in the vision.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Skin in the game is everything.
Right.
Okay. We're coming up on the end of the program. IAWL. Really quickly. What does that mean?
It's my wife and I's favorite movie. It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a
Wonderful life. Okay.
It's Christmas. It's this time of year.
Absolutely.
So.
You know how many angel's wings there are when you come up with a logo?
Oh.
Countless.
Really?
Incidentally, that movie, the first choice for James Stewart was actually Cary Grant. Did you know that?
Yes, I did actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
They're both brilliant actors.
That's cool.
Both brilliant actors.
Okay, great. So we're at that part of our program where you get to look right in your camera, which is that camera right there, and tell everybody how to reach you, why they should call you. Go ahead, Tom.
Again, my website is IWLAadvisory.com. I think we've talked about how and why the business metrics I want to go for. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Tom Scurria, and I look forward with discussing anybody's issues and talking with any potential clients.
Tom Scurria, absolutely a pleasure
pleasure.
having you on the program.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having me.
joining us
My
today
pleasure.
on CEO Chat. Thank all of you for tuning in to listen to Tom and get to know him a little better on CEO Chat this morning. My name is Al Cini,
I'm Joe Osamendi.
and this is our last program for 2017. So have a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
Yes, please have a safe weekend and a great holiday, and join us next year. And thank you so much for being part of our audience.
Thank you. It's just great. Thanks very much.
Bye.